So, you're ready to get started building your first scale model. You've picked out a kit and you're ready to get cracking. Awesome. But you're not sure which tools you're going to need to get the job done. Well, in today's video, I'm going to show you the 5 most important tools that you're going to need to get started in the hobby of scale modeling that you can pick up for under 10 bucks. These are high quality tools at an affordable price that are going to last you a really long time and help you build up not only your very first model kit, but hopefully many more models to come. My name's Hank, welcome to Spruce and Brews Scale Modeling. Let's hop right into it. Alright, so in no particular order here, we're going to start with this gadget right here. This is what's called a Spruce Snipper, or a sprue cutter, and the whole purpose of this tool is to get one of the parts you need to build your model off of the rest of the sprue. We modelers call these individual panels of parts sprues, and they're the foundation of the injection molding process that manufacturers use to make plastic model kits. As you follow along with the instruction sheet provided with your kit, it's going to call for certain parts in each step of the assembly process. And when those parts get called out, you've got to take them off the sprue so you can start building your kit. And the best way to do that is to take one of these sprue snippers, press it up flush to where the piece you need meets the rest of the sprue, and carefully snip that piece off. And this is going to give you a nice clean cut and quickly and easily get that piece ready to mount on the rest of your build. I've been using these snippers for years now, from my very first model up until my recent competition winners. It's a great product and it's going to last you a really long time. If you'd like to pick one of these up, I'll have a link right down here in the description below. Moving on to our second tool here, once you get the piece off the sprue with your Spruce Snippers, it's important to make sure that any little cut marks or seam lines on the piece are sanded down nice and smooth. The last thing you want on a finished model is a gnarly cut mark or a seam that makes it look like a cheap toy or something. We don't want that. So what I like to use is a nail file or an emery board. Odds are you probably got one of these lying around the house already. I may or may not have snuck this one out of my wife's drawer. But if you don't, you can pick these up at pretty much any convenience store. And what you do with this is, after you cut the piece off with your snippers, you just take the file and very gently buff down that cut mark until it's flush with the rest of the piece. Easy peasy. These usually have 2 different grits of sandpaper on the file. One side is a little finer, which is what I usually use, and the other one is a little rougher for those tough jobs. So our second essential modeling tool is a nail file. You'll be surprised how often you use this little guy. I'll drop a link down in the description below if you'd like to throw one into your next Amazon order. And while you're at it, please consider hitting that subscribe button. I've got new scale modeling videos coming out each and every week full of tutorials, tips and tricks, history chats, all that good stuff. Would love to have you aboard. Alright, up next, another absolute essential that every modeler should have. A hobby knife, or an X-Acto knife. When I'm building models, this thing is almost like an extension of my body. I use it to clean up parts and remove excess little bits of plastic. I use it to manipulate pieces into place. I use it to maneuver decals. Excellent little tool. There are a ton of different kinds of hobby knives out there. I grabbed this one a few years back in a set with a whole bunch of extra replacement blades for not very much at all, and I still have a ton of spare blades left. It's great to have those backups too, because after a while you're going to dull down your blade a little bit, and it's really important to have a sharp edge while you're working. When you're cutting decals off the decal sheet, for example, you want to make sure that your knife is nice and sharp so you don't tear anything. So our third tool today, and perhaps the most important, is a nice quality hobby knife. I've got a link in the description below for this particular set, but you can get these at pretty much any hobby, arts and craft, or hardware store. Alright, on to our fourth essential tool for beginner scale modelers, and this one is actually a double whammy for you guys. You get the 2-for-1 special here. It's critical to have a quality set of tweezers for scale modeling, because guess what? We're going to be handling a lot of really small parts, and we need to do that with precision. Something a little more delicate than the big old clumsy fingers is going to be necessary here. So I use 2 kinds of tweezers when I'm working on a scale model kit. First up is your regular, run-of-the-mill, fine-tip bathroom tweezer. You've probably got one of these laying around, but if you need a new one to dedicate to scale modeling instead of making your household one disappear, they only cost a couple of bucks. Tweezers are great for maneuvering parts, like I mentioned, for pulling masking tape off for masks, for attaching antennas and other rigging components, applying decals, you name it. Whenever you need something a little more precise than your fingers, a handy set of tweezers is key. And beyond that, if you want to get a little more technical, you probably don't have a set of these lying around. These are what's called cross-lock tweezers, and they sort of work the opposite way of a regular set of tweezers. With regular tweezers, you pinch the 2 sides, and they grab, and when you let go, they release. With these cross-lock tweezers, though, it's the opposite. You squeeze them to open them, and the default position is closed. These are great for a lot of things, particularly when you need to hold a piece for an extended amount of time while cement or glue dries, for example, because you don't need to be applying that squeezing force the whole time. You can just rest it there for as long as you need, squeeze to release, and you're done. I use these a lot for decals as well. You can grab individual decals, set this on the edge of the water bowl while the decal soaks, and then grab it when the decal is ready to be applied. So our fourth tool today is actually two tools, two different kinds of tweezers, each for a similar but slightly different job. If you want to grab a pair of these guys, you can check out the link in the description below. And our final essential tool for every beginner scale modeler, well, for every scale modeler really, is a quality set of paintbrushes. Building a scale model is only half the battle. Some might say it's not even half, because the painting, weathering, and finishing processes of scale modeling are some of the most rewarding and creative aspects of the hobby. Now, down the road, as you develop your skills in this hobby, you'll probably start picking up some more complicated equipment, like an airbrush and an air compressor, but your first few kits will most likely be painted by hand. And you want to make sure that you've got a nice, reliable set of paintbrushes to get the job done. There's nothing worse than fighting with cheap equipment, but you really don't have to spend much on brushes to find something that's going to work great and last you a long time. I've been using this same 5-brush e-boot set for years, from some of my very first models to my most recent builds. You're going to see them in just about every video on this channel. And these have worked great for me. The larger brushes, like this one right here, are great for vehicle work, and the tiny precise brushes, like this guy, are awesome for figure painting and small detail jobs. So start yourself out with a nice pack of brushes, and it's going to take you a long way. So now that you've armed yourself with this list of essential scale modeling tools to get started in the hobby, you're ready to get underway on your first project. But before you do though, take a look at this next video where we'll talk about some of the most common mistakes that I see beginner scale modelers make and my tips on how to avoid them. Thank you for watching today, and until next time, my friends, be well, happy building, cheers.